Welcome to our first Minisode, Nasty. We'd like to start by thanking Kath and Katie for their unrelenting support in promoting our podcast on their socials. Your efforts don't go unnoticed. For anyone new here, this podcast is pro-PA. It prides itself on reflecting the truth. It is evidence-based, rooted in lived experience, and it gives physician associates a space to speak openly about what has happened to them over the last 3 years.
In this Minisode, we're exploring how pro-PA content, like this podcast, is received online. Interestingly, our content has been branded as nasty, despite it being a simple reflection of the reality PAs face. And we wanted to spend a moment talking about what nasty online content really looks like. We consider nasty to be running a social media account dedicated to targeting and bullying PAs, especially when the handle or username itself is a reference to PA bullying. We're looking at you, Brioche. Nasty is obsessively trolling physician associates online. It is watching PAs speak out about what has happened to them, the bullying, the pile-ons, the fear, the loss of work, the loss of confidence, the reputational damage, and then claiming outrage that PAs dared to speak about it at all. The anti-PA mob use the same tactic every time. They flip the script. They make the people describing the harm sound like the problem. They make the people asking to be treated with basic professional dignity sound like the aggressors. They make PAs talking about bullying sound nasty rather than acknowledging the reality. And part of that reality is this. Some doctors became so comfortable with the direction of travel and so confident that the BMA campaign would continue to carry public and institutional weight that some apparently felt able to book foreign holidays instead of either protesting on a picket line or turning up for the job they were paid to do. Unfortunately, almost any criticism from PAs is framed as nasty, even if the claim is demonstrably true.
If we are talking about what nasty means in UK medicine, then we cannot ignore the way moral outrage has been selectively applied. Nasty is entering a profession rooted in the principle of avoiding patient harm, and then repeatedly withdrawing your labour from vulnerable, unwell patients over several years in pursuit of better pay, while treating any criticism of that as morally unacceptable. Nasty is supporting BMA strike action and bullying colleagues who don't want to strike into participating anyway, because if they don't strike, they risk being labelled a scab and facing consequences from their peers. Unfortunately, many resident doctors who disagreed with strike action still felt forced into it, not because they supported it, but because they feared being penalised afterwards, through rota swaps, peer relationships, workplace goodwill, training opportunities, and the quiet everyday support that keeps departments functioning.
Over the past 3 years, we've come to learn that online toxicity can emanate from individuals employed right across the medical spectrum, from GPs or family doctors to doctors who care for your most vital organs, nephrologists, for example. And what stuns us the most is not just that these people were so effortlessly capable of relentless toxicity, but that medical leadership listens to it. The government listened to it. Institutions that should have been able to tell the difference between genuine concern and organised hostility failed to do so. And any doctor who tried to push back against the tide was publicly humiliated. The message was clear: step out of line and you will be made an example of. Insert crab emoji.
Toxicity in UK medicine is now so commonplace that it is not just tolerated but rewarded. During last week's virtual Leng Review implementation update, Gillian Leng was perceived by attendees to be sniggering throughout the meeting. When PAs sit in meetings, MDTs, in professional spaces and feel met with smirks, sniggers, dismissal or contempt from people in positions of power, what does this say about the level of disdain that's been allowed to grow around this profession? So no, it is not nasty to reflect on the reality of the behaviour of some doctors, and it's not nasty to call out those that relentlessly troll PAs. There's a paper on trolling, almost too perfectly titled, "Trolls Just Want to Have Fun," which found that trolling was associated with dark personality traits, particularly sadism. The authors put it quite bluntly: cyber trolling appears to be an internet manifestation of everyday sadism. So when someone spends hours online trying to humiliate, provoke, frighten, or degrade another person, we should stop pretending that it's always about principle. Sometimes it is not principle. Sometimes it's pleasure. Sometimes it's gratification. Sometimes it's the enjoyment of another person's distress.
There is also research linking bullying with moral disengagement and the need for popularity. In other words, bullying can be a way of gaining status. It can be a way of feeling powerful. It can be a way of bonding with a group. And that's exactly what we see on X and Reddit with some of these doctors. People band together in toxic little cliques, not because they're brave or principled or professionally superior, but because cruelty gives them something to gather around. They find each other through contempt, they bond through mockery, and they perform nastiness for approval. And then the platform rewards them. A vile comment gets likes, a cruel quote gets applause, a pile-on gets attention, and suddenly someone who may not feel especially important in the real world gets to feel influential for a moment. They're seen, liked, validated. Maybe for the first time in a long time, they feel like they matter. But that's not real respect. That's not leadership. That's not advocacy. That is a person sitting behind a screen, chasing approval from other unkind people while telling themselves they're doing something noble.
We physician associates should not feel threatened by that, because what kind of life is that really? What kind of person chooses to spend their free time searching for people to hurt? What kind of professional identity is built around humiliation? What kind of adult, instead of enjoying their family, their friends, their work, their home, their actual life, spends hour after hour online posting vile comments in the hope that other cruel people will press like? We don't envy that. We should not be intimidated by that, and we should see it for what it is: sad, small, and deeply unhealthy. Let's remember, a fulfilled person does not need to bond through cruelty. A secure person does not need to humiliate strangers to feel powerful. A talented doctor does not need a toxic clique to tell them they are important. So maybe we should pity the trolls on X. Maybe we should feel sorry for them. Maybe we should hope that one day they find something real to do with their lives. Something meaningful, something kind, something that gives them a sense of worth that is not dependent on making other people suffer. We sincerely hope they seek help, touch grass, find purpose.